everyone, it's your boy Luke here for our DFS value picks at this week's Valero Texas Open. In this video, we'll be covering my favorite plays priced $7,500 and below for Draftkings GPPs to give you guys some salary flexibility to spend up for an extra stud or two, and of course to give you some ownership leverage down low as well. $7,500 and below is where we start to get some of the scratchy golfers where they're not going to be checking all of the boxes that we're looking for. We're really just trying to hone in on upside. These plays are going to have GPP winning upside, actually the ability to go out there, finish in the top 5 or top 10. And while they might not be the most safe plays on the slate, they're the exact kind of high upside spots that I'm looking to add to my lineups down low. With that being said, last week we did hit on Corey Connors in this video as one of our favorite value picks. Of course, he ended up finishing in third place at the match play. Kevin Kisner, even though he wasn't in our value picks video, he was a core pick for us. Of course, another piece of value that we hit big at the match play last week. And on those two picks alone, we pretty much led ourselves to value, and especially to profit last week. DJ was one of the studs that we didn't end up having. We did have a little bit of Scotty Scheffler, but because we got the right pieces down low, it ended up being a profitable week for us. Of course, if we had DJ, we ended up with some lineups with 4 or 4, that type of thing. It would have been an even better week, but we look to build on that momentum and of course to try and give you guys some of those diamonds in the rough down low. With that being said, let's go ahead and hop right on into it. Alright guys, on the screen you can see the projections for this weekend. The first value that I have my eyes on is going to be Laird at $7,500. He's a past champion at this event, won back in 2014. Also won at TPC Summerlin, which is a comp course a lot of people are using for him this week. And overall, especially over the last 24 measured rounds, has been on his best stuff. I mean, if we take a look at the shots gained metrics, they really speak for themselves here. He has been one of the best approach players in the world. He's gaining over half a stroke per round, 0.534 per round to be exact. Off the tee, he's been there. He's been a slight gainer. Around the greens, always something where he's going to be at the very least slightly better than average. The one bugaboo, of course, much like Luke lists, some of these other tee to green specialists, is the putting. And there's one thing that you can get away with at this golf course, it is going to be the putter. You're dealing with undulated greens. They tend to be some of the hardest to read on the PGA Tour, and particularly this week when we have the POA Anua surface, a lot of that dormant Bermuda is pretty much completely out of the equation this week. Is going to add even more madness on the greens. That means that guys like a Laird that have deficiencies with their putting are going to be in play this week. Of course, if we take a look at the course history, he is among the best in the entire field. Of course, on top of the win that he had back in the day, 18th place finish in 2017, 11th the year after that, 30th and 36th place finishes over the last 2 trips to here at TPC San Antonio. In general, this guy makes a ton of cuts, but also does have that top end upside. And really, he's coming in with better form than we've seen over the last 3 to 4 years. He'd kind of gone into a lull in his career where he wasn't doing much of late. Of course, the win at TPC Summerlin was a breakthrough. We hadn't seen that kind of success from Laird for quite some time, but now he's really starting to find his footing. So he would already be interesting pretty much at $6,500 if he was coming in with no form. But even though he's $7,500, which seems a little bit expensive for him, even in this type of field, I love the form coming in. I love the course history, of course, and somebody that I'm looking to have a huge week here. Next up, we're going to be talking about Frittelli at $7,200, and he's kind of coming in with sneaky good form. He's really somebody who struggled towards the end of 2021, or even during the fall swing to begin this season. It had gone plenty of events with miscuts in a row. He had been dealing with a lot of accuracy issues off the tee, and even the strengths of his game, which of course are the distance off the tee and his putting, had kind of started to escape him. But if we take a look at the recent form, it has been a lot better over the last month or so. Most notably for Frittelli, he's made his cut in his last 4 events, 50th at the Players, and that was coming out of the harder of the 2 draws, so that's quite impressive. 42nd at the API, 16th at the Honda, 26th at the Genesis Invitational, and especially those 2 performances at Honda and Genesis are really where I'm trying to hone in on. Both are decent comps for what we're going to see at TPC San Antonio, both also in the same grass type as what we're going to see this week, a Bermuda POA mixture that's a little bit more dominated by the POA side of things, and he really looked his best those weeks. In general, he's somebody who's solid with the around the green play, very solid putter. Of course, like I said before, a bomber of the golf ball. So really checks all of those boxes that we're looking for. The recent form has looked pretty good here. And on top of everything, also the course history is there. If you take a look at it, he's only been here twice, a 42nd place finish, but a 20th place finish back here in 2018. That was also when he was a much less skilled player. He was coming in with much less experience, everything like that. He went to school at University of Texas. I'm sure he's played this course numerous times over his collegiate career and while he's lived in the area ever since graduating college. So somebody that's coming in with, again, like I said before, a little bit of sneaky good form. He's been making some cuts. For his career, he's a gainer on the Poa Anua surface, and at $7,200, I like his chances of finishing the top 25. And if he can find something with the iron play, go out there, gain a few strokes to the field, could even contend at this event. Next up, we're going to be talking about Brandon Grace, who, if we take a look at the recent form metrics, he's going to be among the worst plays in the entire field. He had 134 from recent form, 128 for TPC San Antonio fit. So pretty much no matter how you splice it up, he's not going to look like the best play. But if you take a look at course history, it's really what I'm honing in on here. You know, he's somebody that has been prone to bouncing back in the past. He goes into stretches of bad form, but when he snaps out of it, he's a high upside play that's capable of contending at any event. And you can see at this course specifically, it has been a bright spot for him. He finished 23rd here last year, 10th place back in 2017, and in 2016, he had a 9th place finish. So his average finish here is right around number 13 or 14 in the field. He's somebody who has the type of game we're looking for. Again, very skilled at getting up and down, very solid with the putting when he's on his best game. And if there's one thing that he can do off the tee, it's be accurate. And I know for a lot of my core picks, I was trying to hone in on mostly distance guys, people that can power it out there, a good 310, 315 yards. But the other way to get it done at this golf course is to be deadly accurate. Because the fairways are extremely firm, this is Texas, towards the summer months of the year, you're going to be dealing with firm and fast conditions. So if you can get the ball in the fairway, especially with a lower ball flight, like somebody like Brandon Grace has, he's infamous for how low he hits the ball, you're going to get a ton of rollout. So while he does deal with distance issues from time to time, perhaps that's why he's had so much success at this golf course. And back in 2016 and 2017, when he finished in 9th place and 10th place, that was also when it was towards the summer months, when you were dealing with even more firm, even more fast conditions. So perhaps that's why he excelled in those conditions even a little bit more. But even here towards the spring months, I love him in this type of format and somebody that I'm looking for a huge bounce back week. Next up, we're going to talk about Andrew Putnam, who was the darling of the DFS community just 2 to 3 weeks ago. Somebody who on the West Coast swing really got it going on the greens. You saw the approach play be at least doable for the last 2 to 3 events. He was getting by, hardly gaining to the field, and that's because he's a Poa Anua specialist, gaining nearly half a stroke per round on the Poa Anua surface. His course history here isn't ideal. He hasn't played here all that much over the years. So we go ahead and bring up Andrew Putnam as a missed cut last time out, 36th place in 2019, but a top 10 in 2018. So he's been a little bit volatile with his starts here. Again, he's only been here 3 times, but it's nice to see that he's at least had that top end upside. And I would venture to say that that was when he had his best stuff putting. I mean, Andrew Putnam is somebody who's going to ride or die by the putter. Very accurate off the tee, so much like a Brandon Grace, as long as he's splitting the fairways this week, he should get a little bit of extra rollout, making this course playable for him. And just a little bit earlier on in the year, this guy was in great recent form. Of course, the reason why a lot of people are jumping ship on somebody like Andrew Putnam is the miscut streak, right? Miscut at the Valspar, miscut at the Players. That was out of the worst of the 2 waves, so we can kind of give him a break there. Miscut at API, he was having it all rolling on all cylinders. He was posting top 10s, top 15s for us, playing him in DFS, and then completely fell off the rails. Sometime soon, he's going to get it back on track. It's going to be when that putter turns around, when he's going back to gaining 5 or 6 strokes to the field over an event. And if he does so in this week of a field at just $6,700, has a legit chance to finish in the top 10 once again, like he did back there in 2017. So I do like his chances at that price tag. And again, not the safest play on the slate. The recent form hasn't really been there, but that's also going to give us extremely low ownership on guys like Brandon Grace, also with Andrew Putnam that we just touched on there, also at relatively low price tags. Next up, we're going to talk about Garrett Higgo there at $6,600. He's also somebody coming in with a little bit of scratchy form, right? Hasn't really done anything towards the beginning of the 2022 season. The big coming out party for Higgo on the PGA Tour was the win over there at the Palmetto Championship, and it's The correlation between that golf course, Congaree Golf Course, and what we have here at TPC San Antonio is the reason why I want to play them this week. It was a golf course where you had to get up and down, really undulated greens, raised golf surfaces that also had fairways that were really firm and fast. A lot of the shorter hitters had success there. It's Kevin Kisner's home course, so you know it's going to play in that type of fashion. And this golf course is extremely comparable. You've got to keep it in play if you're not long off the tee. If you're a bomber, you can get it out there extremely far. Garrett Higgo, he's not really the most accurate driver of the golf ball, but he is extremely long off the tee. He's extremely skilled at getting it done around the green. One of the best putters on the tour when he has it all rolling. And even though the POA numbers aren't all that great, that's over a 6-round sample size. Every time he's played on this surface, he's gone out there and missed the cut. So not something that we can really write him off at this point because, again, the first time he ever played on tour, he came out here and won at the Palmetto Championship. Clearly, the guy has a ton of upside behind him. And because of the recent form, he hasn't been getting much steam, right? If he was $6,600 coming in, making 3 of his last 4 made cuts, that kind of thing, he'd be 25% owned here. I mean, he showed something at the Honda Classic before ending up with a dreadful finish on Saturday evening and for Sunday's round. He was in the mix. He was in the top 5 of that golf tournament. A few weeks before that, he was in contention as well. So he had been sniffing the top of the leaderboard, just kind of threw it away towards the end. If this finish at Honda was a top 10 rather than a 66th place finish, people would be running to play Garrett Higgo. I mean, just an inferior field compared to some of the events that he'd been playing in of late where he had missed the cut. I mean, Player Championship, API, those are some of the best fields in golf. So for him to miss the cut at that type of field, especially in conditions that were as rough at both of those events as they were, I'm not going to hold it against him too much. This guy's just a high pedigree player. He's super cheap for this field and has much higher win equity than anyone else in this field. In fact, probably more win equity than the 10 guys priced around him combined. He just has that kind of upside inside of him. And while a lot of these other guys might be more alive to make the cut, Garrett Higgo certainly has higher end upside. And now lastly, the last value play we're going to go to is going to be JT Poston at $6,300. Somebody who had also completely fallen off the earth, but this is the exact kind of track where he could turn it around. He's long off the tee, but also a short game specialist. So not as much accurate as some of those other guys we were talking about, like a Brendan Grace, like an Andrew Putnam, who are going to go and try and get some of the extra distance by hitting the short grass. JT Poston can just fire away at will. He's not very accurate, but he'll get away with that, much like a Garrett Higgo, somebody who's skilled around the green, one of the best putters on tour, regardless of the green surface. You can see on POA Newell gaining still nearly a stroke per round. And even though the recent form hasn't been all that great, he's also kind of put himself in contention of late. He early on in a few of these golf tournaments, especially in the first round, had shot 4, 5 under par a few times. At the Amex, shot 3 under par all 4 days, ended up finishing in the top 15 there. It was a Honda Classic where he really got off to the hot start, but much like Garrett Higgo, ended up having a rough end to the stretch. Miscuts of the Valspar and Players, we can give him a little bit of a break for. Both of those were extremely strong fields. And in general, I'm just taking a long-term approach with JT. Of course, he's a friend of the pod here, somebody that we talk about all the time, but at the same time, this is the exact type of venue where he would shine. He's only $6,300. He's going to be sub 1% owned, so we can use him in just 4 to 5% of our lineups and get significant leverage to the field. He's also somebody, much like a Garrett Higgo, where if he can bring his best stuff, his upside is to win this golf tournament. He's done it before. He's finished second place last year at the Barbasol Championship. That was to Seamus Power. This is somebody who, when he competes, he usually puts himself squarely in contention. So I do like him at that price tag. The high upside play that could end up breaking this type of slate. That is all I've got for my value picks for this week's Valero Texas Open. Before we go on and get out of here, go ahead and let me know what your favorite value pick on the board is. Just make sure there's $7,500 and below on Draftkings, and let me know why you think they end up placing highly this week. For me, there's a few guys we could choose from, but if I had to choose one, we're going to go with Dylan Frittelli. Maybe a little bit off the board for most people, but I think that form has been a little bit sneaky. Of course, the historical course fit is there for Dylan Frittelli. He's from Texas, hometown guy. Maybe he channels some of those good vibes into his first top 5 finish for quite some time. But go ahead and let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. As always, going to have you guys covered for all of the content throughout the rest of the week. We will have our weekly DFS live stream on Wednesday at 7 p.m. So make sure to set a reminder for that. Make sure to stop on by while I cover the weather, my player poll, any last second adjustments to my modeling, all that sort of fun stuff. Also, take a look at some of our Prize Picks content that will be dropping throughout the week. If you guys haven't played on Prize Picks, it's a ton of fun over there. I'll have you covered for all 4 slates there. Showdown content, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of that content to come as well. There's a lot dropping and you don't want to miss any of that for all of the golf tournaments this year. I appreciate all of your support here, guys. We're almost getting to 1.1K subscribers, which I can't thank you guys enough for. Again, I appreciate you stopping by. Good luck for all of your lineups this week, and let's get this cash.